Wetlands provide the rapidly growing urban population with water services entirely free of charge, making a vital contribution to human health and well-being.
Anyway, or here in Harare, these are the ones that retain the water during the rainy season. Also regulates the siltation that would have been going into our rivers, retain that water, releases in the dry season, and then fills our water sources like Lake Chivero, and then we are able to enjoy the big benefit of having access to clean water, which would have been cleaned by these wetlands.
Plants in wetlands help to absorb toxic fertilizers, pesticides, heavy chemicals, and toxic waste from industrial effluent and neutralize harmful bacteria.
When we do our research, like the most recent student of mine was working on Monavale wetland and how it is actually helping in terms of reducing the amount of non-beneficial microorganisms from reaching our rivers. Wetlands, they can actually help to reduce the amount of pollutants from sewers that are spilling. They reduce the amount of pollutants that will end up in the rivers. They will reduce the amount of sediment that ends up in our rivers. If that is happening, it means there is less pollution getting to our rivers. There is less siltation that is occurring actually to our rivers.
As long as we don't take care of what is called diffuse source pollution, Chivero will remain polluted. How do we take care of those diffuse source issues? Removing nitrogen and phosphorus from runoff, it's wetlands. Wetlands do that thoroughly. The Baby River passes through Marlborough sewage ponds, which discharge into the river. After that, when you measure the pollutants, the levels are very high. Go about 4 kilometers down the river, you won't detect, and the river has cleaned it, using its wetlands, has cleaned the water quality. So this stuff that comes off the street, it may require some re-engineering, re-landscaping around it to make sure that before the flood waters get into a river, they've passed through some wetland.
This helps in the purification of water that is available to residents at reduced cost of water processing by the local authorities.
A wetland acts as a filter, and most people do not realize it. When water collects in that wetland, it is slowed down. It's not like it is direct discharge into a river. So that water is slowed down and you get sedimentation of whatever impurities sedimenting in that wetland. So what you then get coming out of that wetland, flowing either as surface water or as groundwater, you get a filtered product. What we are seeing right now, Lake Chivero is a typical example. We're getting a lot of pollution. Yes, there is the river affluent that is direct affluent into the system, but we are witnessing upstream in the Masasa area, where wetlands have been tampered with. We've built factories around that area. We then do not get that filtration process taking part. And this is why we are finding the water hyacinth in Lake Chivero is a result of nitrates, a high concentration of nitrates. And the biggest source of those nitrates, most people want to say it's the sewages, but I beg to differ. It is coming out of the factories upstream in the Masasa area. And you find that those nitrates then feed the water hyacinth, and that's why we've got that problem in Lake Chivero. The smell in that water, that pungent smell, it's coming from those nitrates, and yes, definitely the decaying water hyacinth also plays a role.
Some scientists and some people actually describe them as kidneys. Why are they described as kidneys? It's because they actually help to purify water. When water is flowing through wetlands, the wetlands actually help to remove some of the solid waste. They help to cause some of the nutrients that are associated with the flowing water to be removed before the water gets into our rivers.
The disturbance of any of Harare's wetlands subjects residents to polluted water sources, and reports show that Harare City uses up to 8 chemicals to purify the water that it provides to residents. This is because the wetlands, which are the natural purifiers, are being tampered with.
If you take Lake Chivero, it has lost its storage capacity by 18%. And at the normal tariff rates of charging water to consumers, this is a loss of $45 million, a recurrent loss of $45 million per year, because you've lost that water, which will be in Lake Chivero. So intercepting silt to the rivers is one of the major services that we get from wetlands. And so if you cultivate wetlands or you destroy them in the rural areas by excessive grazing on wetlands, the result is that your reservoirs fill up with silt and you lose. You've got a real economic loss there.
Apart from being home to various types of vegetation, wetlands also act as carbon sinks that absorb oxides of carbon, which are the major causes of the greenhouse effect.
Pamvura pama-wetlands pamwana mati madoro kana kuti panzvimbo dzinonjenga mvura dziyazi dzisinga zvinozosvibisa environment yedu zvokuti pamakore mashoma anotevera tinokwanisa kupedzisira takushaya mvura yakachena yokunwa kana mhepo chaiyo chaiyo yatinofema inenge isanyatsokunakidza kufema. Tofanira kuti kana tiri kufamba kana tifamba panzvimbo yakaita seinoyi pasina dzimba, pasina utsi, pasina chii, tofanira kufema mhepo yanonzwa kuti mhepo yakachena. Ndozvatinenge tiri kushuvirawo.
Where we have wetlands, there is vegetation, and vegetation is one of those, I would say, sinks, carbon sinks, where carbon dioxide that we are emitting in the atmosphere is taken up by vegetation. So with deforestation that is ongoing, both in wetlands in some cases and in non-wetland areas, it means we are retaining more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is resulting in global warming due to the accumulation of these gases that do not allow heat that is generated at the surface to escape into space freely. So there is virtually a lot of need to ensure that we preserve these wetlands in order for us also to play a global role of reducing the emissions through preservation of carbon sequestration and biological diversity.
Their studies are still being carried on as to see to what extent does the wetlands themselves assist in terms of sequestrating these carbons. And these studies, all of them are pointing that the wetlands play a very important role, especially in terms of climate change. That means reducing the effects of climate change by absorbing some of the carbon within the soils.
With all these vital functions that wetlands play, it will be detrimental to lose them. On the basis of their importance, it can thus be argued that wetlands must be preserved and managed sustainably and must be free from construction, which turns them into concrete jungle and negates all the ecological goods and services they provide. Let us desist, therefore, from constructing houses, shopping malls, hotels, churches, and service stations in wetlands and find alternative space which is not fragile and ecologically sensitive.